with a cold snap at 4:10. Then later on in the show today, we're going to have an update on travel conditions across the country. Roads, trains, planes, all of that at 5:20. 7 weeks ago, we kicked off our career club with 3 out-of-work viewers who are desperate to find jobs. As their journey comes to an end today, we are going to find out, have they been successful in their quest? But first, actress Brooke Shields and Gwyneth Paltrow were sufferers of postnatal depression, a condition that affects 1 in 10 mothers. Would you recognise the symptoms if you had them? I am joined now by 2 women with first-hand experience. We have Dorothy Murphy and Madge Fogarty. We're also joined by consultant psychiatrist Dr. Joanne Fenton. You're all very welcome. How are you all today?
Grand, thank you.
Now, Dorothy, I'll talk to you first. You got postnatal depression after your son Ethan was born.
I did, yeah.
A year ago.
Yeah.
How did you feel, or how did you know you had this?
Well, I didn't know that I had postnatal depression. I just knew that I felt really incredibly wretched and alone and distressed, and I thought I was doing everything wrong and that I couldn't do anything right at all, you know.
And were you worried about the baby and how you were taking care of the baby?
Well, I was disabled at the time with a pelvic thing, and my partner was doing most of the work for him, so I just kind of got it in my head that I wasn't doing anything for the baby, you know, where I actually was. It was just, I was very depressed, and I just got it into my head that, like, I wasn't doing the proper job that I should have been doing.
Did this come on you straight away after you went home from the hospital, or...?
Well, I was really elated when I first had him, and I was just so glad that he was finally out, because I had a horrific pregnancy, like, and then to meet him and all was just terrific. Like, he's a wonderful child, but very soon after I came home, well, I felt a bit miserable with the breastfeeding and all in the hospital. But then soon after I came home, I just got more down and more down and more down. Like,
when did you actually go to your GP then?
It was Christmas time last year.
Yeah. How long was that after the baby was born?
Well, he was born in November, so he was born beginning of November. So, like, the doctor was terrific. Like, he was like, this is perfectly normal, and I was like, well, it's not normal for me, you know.
And what did he prescribe? Or
she prescribed me some Cipramil tablets and some Xanax initially to help to calm me. So then,
antidepressant?
Yeah.
Tablets, yeah. And you needed those?
I did need them. So I'm still on them now, like, but they've been decreasing and decreasing and decreasing. Like, I'm on the path to full recovery. Like, so.
A year later, though, it's probably something you never expected would happen to you.
No, and for some people, it's more than a year that affects them for. So I'm quite lucky that I got the help that I did, because I, by accident, got counselling from SOSAD in Drogheda. They're a charity, like, so
it helped you. Yeah.
It was really good. Yeah.
Imagine your experience is different. It took you a while before any symptoms came out. It was your second baby as well.
My second baby, and it was 6 weeks after. But like Dorothy, I was on a bit of a high myself, like in hospital, but I just a bit elated, I didn't realise. So I didn't rest, I was doing too much, and then eventually 6 weeks later, I just completely overdid it with the listening, and that was my stumbling block. And that was my first night of not sleeping, and just having all negative thoughts and being just very afraid and very anxious.
And your birth was very traumatic.
Yeah.
Your baby was taken away from you.
Yes. He was away from me for 8 hours.
Do you think that affected you?
Definitely. I know for a fact that was the starting point for me. Whereas with lots of mothers, it can be 2 or 3 triggers, but with me it was definitely a bad birth experience.
What was the worst thing you felt during this period? In the lows? I mean, did you obviously you said you felt down and all that, crying, but can you describe the symptoms different from, say, just blues?
Just being anxious all the time, just being convinced that you're a bad mother, that you can't do anything, having no interest in anything. I mean, I love shopping. All of a sudden I hated it. Being afraid to get out of bed in the morning, being afraid to go to bed at night because I couldn't sleep. Just being very negative all the time, feeling like a really bad person, and having constantly looking for people to reassure me that I'm not going mad. You know, and eventually when that goes on for a certain amount of time, which is, say, 6 months, with me, it took me over a year as well to get better.
Did you take antidepressants?
I did. You know, but lots of women go on antidepressants. Lots of people, women get very down and they think the only way out, that they're never going to get better, is to consider ending it all. And that's the sad part of it. We have many women doing this in this country, and there is very little support there. That's the sad part.
Dr. Fenton, are these classic symptoms, the tiredness, fatigue and all that, are these classic symptoms these ladies are talking about?
Absolutely classic symptoms. People can present with depressed mood, sadness, fatigue, lethargy, loss of appetite, and then some people overeat, feelings of hopelessness, guilt, feeling really sad and miserable in themselves, and yet no hope. They feel that there's no one that can help them. So they're very classical symptoms, and yet there is help out there.
Okay, and how would this differ from baby blues?
Well, I suppose baby blues is a continuum. Baby blues is very, very common in that it affects between 80 to 85% of women that deliver. And that's a self-limiting condition where people present with sadness and irritability. One minute they're feeling absolutely wonderful post-delivery, and the next minute they're in tears. But it settles within 7 to 10 days normally. Whereas a depression lasts longer. The commonest time for it to present is usually on week 3 to week 12, and they have symptoms that we've just heard about, but it lasts for a minimum of 14 days. And at that point, you really need to consider this is more than the baby blues, there's something else going on.
And it's important to go to your doctor and get help, as Dorothy and Madge obviously and bravely did, although as you said, Madge, you suffered for a while before doing that. Are there certain women that would be more at risk of postnatal depression than others?
Absolutely. People that have a past history of depression would be more at risk, and those that have a family history of depression would be more at risk. And if there's been a traumatic life event, I mean, Madge mentioned that she had a traumatic delivery and she was separated from the baby, that would definitely increase the likelihood of presenting with a depressive disorder.
So there are these triggers that would...
And the woman that strives to be supermum, that's, there's a lot of that around nowadays. Women trying to do everything, they have to have their figure back straight away. There's immense pressure on them nowadays. So they're very high on the scale for getting postnatal depression.
I suppose that there is pressure. Now, Max, all of this and going through this yourself actually prompted you to write a book, Recovering from Postnatal Depression. Co-write a book, I should say, with Bernie, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Tell us about that. How did that come about?
Well, I started a support group in Cork in 1992, so we're going 18 years, which is really important. And we also have a website. But we feel there's so many women out there isolated. They don't know what the hell is happening to them. They have no support system. And we feel it's so important to have a book on the shelves that's available in Eason's that people can pick up. It's written by women that have recovered from postnatal depression, and it has lots of advice and helpful suggestions. And we're supposed to be launching it tonight in Boswells, but I'm really worried that's not going to happen. But anyway, it's out there and it's in Eason's, and it really is a great help. As one of the girls in the group said, Madge, this is going to become our Bible, and that's very good because we've never had an Irish book on postnatal depression in about 10 years.
Great. Do you think there's a stigma still attached to this story?
I do, and as well as me, I'm a teacher and I know I'm on television and everything, but I'd be afraid of how future employers would think of me after being ill with a mental illness or whatever, and there's even, you don't want to tell people, you're afraid, even though you're desperate to talk to women and make friends with people and all, but you don't want to say, oh, well, I have postnatal depression,
Yeah, but it is really important, Doctor, to go forward. Would that be your advice if somebody is going through this at home? And a lot of women that watch the show would have kids at home or maybe have gone through this themselves and would relate to this.
Absolutely. I think I agree with Dorothy. There is a stigma attached, and it's very, very important to know that there is support there. It's very important, particularly, I suppose, your public health nurse is one of the first people that can meet you in your home, and she or he can be a great support, and then referral on to the GP and support groups, just like Madge mentioned. These are all, really, really significant. And then at the 6-week checkup, if you're either seeing your GP or your obstetrician, that's very, very important. And with regards to the maternity hospitals, certainly within Dublin area, there's psychiatrists in each of those, so they're also an asset and something to be used.
Thank you all very much for coming in. Thank you, guys. It's really important that you shared your story and for that advice as well, Doctor. And we do have the information about postnatal depression. It is on our website. We have various links there as well and helplines. If you are suffering with postnatal depression, if you were going through that, do pop onto our website or the Airtel page, indeed, which is 340. Now, in just a moment, we are going to have our cold snap survival guide, and later on in the show, we're going to give you updates on travel conditions, which are